So thanks for joining today's session, and I think we will upload this recording in the peer learning for you channel. So today we will mainly discussing about Azure Devops. Okay, and again a kind of a brief introduction about myself. So I'm Sabyasachi Samadar. I've done MTech in computer science. Currently, I'm a cloud solution architect, and there are my LinkedIn profiles and my personal email address where you can go and you can actually you can kind of send me any doubts or anything if you need me. So you can contact me through this LinkedIn and my email address. So today mainly we'll go through the basics of Azure DevOps. So initially we will understand like what is DevOps, then what is Azure DevOps, what is Azure Boards. Then we'll have a bit of demo in Azure Boards. We'll have what is Azure Repos. We'll have a bit of demo in Azure Repos, and then we'll go through Azure Pipelines, and I'll have a demo in Azure Pipelines, but not in very detail because all these topics are, like they are topic by itself. So we may need one session individually for each topics. There are other pointers in Azure DevOps also, like test plans, Azure test plans, and Azure Artifacts. So I've not mentioned them here, but those are also we are going to cover down the line. So that's a fair thing. You can actually stop me anytime, and you can ask me questions whenever you feel like there is something I've missed or something you need attention. Okay. So so let us discuss what is DevOps. Before telling you what is
Hey,
DevOps, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I think I cannot see your screen. Are you sharing anything?
You can't see the screen. Okay.
Nope.
So
Yeah,
let
same
me
from here. Trying to
let
figure it
me
out.
present. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, I can see. Yeah, I can see now. Yep.
Cool.
Thanks.
So yeah, so then like before telling you what is DevOps, I just want to share something with you guys. Not this one. Yeah, I just want to share this video. So this video is audio. You can see this video, right?
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tire.
So just
Crewman
observe this
himself
video.
changes the tire. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. The tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stops.
So did you guys understood like the concept here? Like what was different from the first pit to the second pit? Any one of you?
Mainly everyone is working in parallel, so the process was extremely faster.
Yeah. Anything else? that was one of the point. Yeah, that's true. Anyone else? Otherwise, I have to take names then. Palvinder, what do you feel?
I think probably they were using some new tools to, fasten the tires more quickly.
Exactly, exactly. So you can understand like it's kind of getting the output early, and we have just evolved. Like 2013, I've shown you, and in 1950 we do it. I think at that time it was looked like 67 seconds was really not a big deal. It was not much time at that time. So they have evolved. So the process or the intention never changed, but like the way we were performing, the way we collaborate with each other, the way we use the tools was much better. So if I ask you like, do we have a kind of DevOps team, or do if I tell you to define DevOps, then it cannot be any tool, or it cannot be any process or something. DevOps is kind of a mindset or a thought process that we have to improve, and whatever you're doing, you have to improve on that. You might be like best in the market so far, but still there will be opportunity of improvement. And DevOps mindset actually encourage that kind of mindset, that you have to improve, you have to deliver better than what you're delivering today. So so according to Donovan Brown, so Donovan Brown actually is kind of working with Microsoft, and he is kind of leading the DevOps platform for Microsoft. And so according to him, it's kind of a DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to end user, your end users. So there are different kind of versions of DevOps. There are the DevSecOps, or like different individual have different definition of DevOps. But mainly, if I have worked on DevOps, or I'm training people on DevOps from last 5 to 6 years, and according to me, it's nothing more than a thought process. And uh, like even from last 6 years, I've seen this DevOps journey has been evolving. Like from like when I started my career with DevOps, it was around 2014, and the DevOps I'm working now, it's completely different, and it got improved for various reasons, and it's really there are many benefits of DevOps. So if you implement DevOps in your project, you don't have to create a new team. You need to you need to kind of make your existing team more productive, and for that you may go for different types of tools. Now there are different types of tools for doing kind of the mundane work or the automated jobs, but to connect them together with different processes, different thought process, different aggressive planning, that actually kind of lead down the whole journey of DevOps. And you don't need separate team. Like I can see a lot of companies have different team for DevOps, and actually they are not DevOps. They are kind of infrastructure engineers who actually configure things. But that is not DevOps, to be honest. DevOps is like your developer know how to deploy the code to the production, and he's aware of what is happening in the production. So he can do some code change. He can actually convert those infrastructure to infrastructure as a code, and then he can maintain that code. He can version them, and your testers know what the developers are doing. So that kind of mindset is DevOps. So it's not like you need to have a separate team and they are going to do things. Okay. So let us go to the next slide. So I just want to let you know what is Azure DevOps. So before that, I just want to tell how this Azure DevOps journey began. It started from 2010 when we started in creating this journey to Azure DevOps. We started with the Sprint One, Microsoft, and then 2012 they go with the VSTS. Earlier it was TFS, so it was known as, I think, Team Foundation Service, and then it got renamed to VSTS, Visual Studio Team Services. Then in 2016 we had that Git Git file systems, and 2018 we renamed everything to Azure DevOps. So it's not very old. This naming convention came into place. Azure DevOps was live, I think, on September 2018, and actually it consists of these five main topics. Azure Boards. So Azure Board is nothing but where you can actually plan, track, and discuss your work items. It's actually a kind of a competitor of Jira. Okay, so whatever, if you have worked with Jira, like you have created a kind of work items, assigning work to your teammates, and then following those work items, creating reports out of those work items, you can do everything in Azure Boards. It's very powerful. I will show you a small demo on it. I hope that will be a bit of interesting to you guys. Then Azure Repos. Azure Repos is kind of a repository where you can actually store all your kind of files. So if you want to share some files with your team, it can be code, it can be any document. You can share with Azure Repos. It's nothing but it's kind of a private Git. So if you have worked on Git, Azure Repos is the private Git. So you'll have a similar experience to check in, check out that you do in the Git. Okay. So I'll show you a small kind of demo in Azure Repos also. Azure Pipeline is the platform where you can do your CI/CD. So CI/CD means you can actually uh, build your application. You can create the packages. You can then deploy those packages to various environments like development environment, testing environment, production environment. So all those things you can do in Azure pipelines. As a developer, we are very close to these Azure pipelines because we spend most of our time in configuring Azure pipelines, and then like whenever any build fails, we need to fix those issues, those errors. So from that point of view, Azure Pipelines is very helpful. Then we have Azure Test Plans, where the test management comes into play. It supports both automated and manual test plans. I need to take a separate session on test plans, how to create automated test cases in Azure Test Plans, and manual. I think everyone knows how to do manual things. I'm not going to touch the manual part, but automation I'm definitely going to touch down the line, not today. uh, and then we have Azure Artifacts, where we can create different types of packages. And once we create those packages, we can reuse them in our pipelines. So from that point of view, Azure Artifacts is also very powerful. You can actually use packages created by different community, and when they expose that through Azure Artifacts, you can get those feeds, and you can use those artifacts in your own pipeline. Obviously you need to get the permission from your stakeholders that you are going to use a certain package which are kind of following the compliance, like it should be compliant to your standards. You cannot use whatever is there. Okay, so from that point of view, we need to get that permission from your stakeholders. So that is Azure Artifacts. So let me do one thing now. Let me go to the portal and show you uh, show you Azure DevOps itself. Yeah. So the URL to go there is dev.azure.com. Okay. So you need to it's free, to be honest. So once you go to dev.azure.com, you need to create a Microsoft account, and once you register yourself with a Microsoft account, you get this. Whenever you come to this dev.azure.com, you'll come to this kind of page where you have your free Azure DevOps got set up. Okay. So we will create a new project. I can show you. I have already created a demo project here, which will, like, I'll show you what we can do with this demo project. But let us create a new project here. So just click on the new project. You can give it a name like live demo. You can give some description. You can either make it public, where anyone who is part of your organization can access this project, or you can make it private, wherever you will decide whom to give the access. Okay. So I'm just taking a kind of a demo session, right? So I'm just making it public, and I'm creating it. So by default, it's going to use the basic template. Now there are different types of templates you'll find uh, while creating a project. Okay, so let me show you that also. Let me go back. So whenever you're creating a new project, there are different types of work item process. So there are Scrum, there are CMMI. This is kind of waterfall model, and then you have basic and you have agile. So depend on your project requirement, you can create that kind of project which supports agile or Scrum. Okay. So depend on your like selection, you'll get these options. So normally, if you select CMMI, you'll not get all these options. So let me show you that also, like waterfall project. You can make it public, advanced, create. And if I go back, uh, I'm still getting all the options. Maybe I'm a admin, that's why I'm getting all the options. But ideally, you'll see that you'll not get all the options. And there is some access policy also you can define. Currently, I'm an administrator and I have access for everything what I'm doing in this project. Okay, so let us go inside this demo project. Uh, Once you go to this demo project, there are kind of information you'll find straight away, where like how many work items that got created, uh, how many commits has been done, how many what's the percentage of your build got succeeded, how much you have deployed, what are the team members you have added in your project. All this kind of information you can add here. Apart from that, it has a concept called dashboards. Okay, so these dashboards are also very kind of very very refreshing to have, because it's kind of add transparency to your stakeholders. Like anyone can log into this portal. These are SaaS offering, software as a service. They can log into this portal and then come and see like how many tasks got closed, how many was kind of new, how many are active. Then there are uh, different types of charts you can create. Like for example, I've created this work item which actually shows me how many tasks got closed, how many resolved, and how many active. Apart from that, I have this build uh, kind of status, where like how many times my build got succeeded and how much time it took uh, to kind of build my application, and how many times it got failed. So that kind of view I'll get. You can get your capacity builder of your team, like how much time you can allocate work to your team. Like they can go for leaves also. You can actually detect those leaves and you can plan your work accordingly. So those things you can see as a dashboard, and you can share those dashboard to all the stakeholders. And you don't have to send any mail to anyone. Everyone can, like anyone can come to this site and they'll get the live status. Then I have the deployment status, like how many times my deployment succeeded. Apart from that, I got this cycle time. I got this kind of view where what are the releases I have deployed, and I've deployed to dev, QA, and production. So how many times it got failed in QA, how many times it got failed in production, all those kind of things you can see here. You can actually add them. And apart from that, you can have a burn down chart also, where you can see how your team is behaving, or how your team is performing for the current sprint or current iteration. So you can understand, like you can create different types of widgets also. Like you can go to click this edit. There are n number of widgets you can create, and you can explore that option. And if you don't find anything which you need, you can go to a extension gallery and you can get more options there, and you can add them in your subscription of your Azure DevOps, and you can use them in your dashboard. For example, for example, I wanted to know how many times my web app failed in Azure. Okay, that also I could do through the widget, custom widget that I need to download from here. So those things you can do, and you can create a customizable, or you can create a very good dashboard, and you can make the transparency flowing for all your stakeholders. So if any build fails, everyone is get to know that a build got failed. There is no hiding anything. Then there is a wiki. where you can actually create wiki for your team members. For example, if I create project wiki, so I can. So normally, what happens? We actually create documents, project documents, and we want to share those documents across the team. So this is a very good option to create your project wiki page, and you can have all your pointers here. Uh, you can have all your information, uh, and you can actually create sub topics pages. And it supports HTML coding, so you can embed a lot of things that we do in our HTML page, and you can expose it to your team members. And whenever anyone gets stuck to implement some process or something, they can come to a particular wiki page. They'll get to know what process to follow, and they can continue their process. So from that point of view, this wiki page is very important.
So kind of it will act like a KDB, right?
Pardon? Pardon me?
So it will act like a KDB, this Azure Wiki.
Yeah, it's kind of you can tell a kind of
So
all your process documents that you want to share with all
you
your
can
team
upload
members.
and put over here, and you can share across the
Yeah,
respective team members.
yeah. Everyone will get to know this information, and whenever they will ask you something, you can tell them to go back to your wiki and uh, go through the process. They can go
Refer to
through
those.
refer to this process. So you can do that. You can maintain that. And normally, what we put is like the domain knowledge we share. Normally, whenever we work in a particular project, we share the domain knowledge, and like whenever a person change from one team to another team, the knowledge also goes with him. So if you maintain the knowledge repo with a wiki page, that knowledge stays in your project, and anyone want to know about those modules that they have created, they can go to those specific pages and get those knowledge. So from that point of view also, it's very very important. Okay, so yeah.
Okay. So a gentle reminder,
Yeah.
please, like we have 30 minutes more for the session.
Okay, 25 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're good. Yeah. So let us see this work items. So you can see this work items. I have created few manual work items for my for this demo today. Uh, so this is not going to show you a very very friendly kind of view, because if you create thousands of task items, it becomes convoluted. It doesn't gives you a good picture. So for that we have boards, and we have Kanban boards that actually helps us to maintain our user stories. So I don't know whether you guys have experience of Agile or Scrum or not. But then if you don't have those knowledge, we can have separate session on Agile and Scrum. And but all those processes have different terminology that they follow. So for example, in Agile we have epics. Epics has features, features has user stories, and user stories have tasks. So that kind of flow they follow. Some call in whenever you go with a Scrum mindset, they have product backlog items. So depend on the process you follow, you can follow those terminologies, and you can actually use those terminology here, and you can create your user stories accordingly. Okay, so for example, if I go to the work items, I can see epic here. So this is a demo epic, uh, kind of the main target you have to deliver your project. Okay, epic will have features, so you can actually create descriptions, you can assign this epic to a particular individual. You can create, like, you can move the state of that epic. You can do a lot of stuff. So this board, yeah, anyone was talking?
So both this is pretty much in relate to Jira, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty similar to Jira, but I think it adds more value than Jira. So let me show you how we can do that. So for example, you created some child items which are nothing but features. Okay, so if you go to a particular feature, that feature can have again multiple child items that can be user stories. So you can go to a particular user story, and that user story can have different tasks. Okay, so in the board you can actually you can actually go through this user stories, and you can go through these tasks, how much you have completed, how much is pending, and how much you have kind of you yet to start. So all those things you can actually monitor, and it's very easy, drag and drop. And normally when our scrum meeting happens, we follow this kind of Kanban board to discuss about our status, and and give the status to our stakeholders, that how much we have done or how much is pending from our end. Then we have backlog items, which is again like from the user stories perspective. Let me load it. Yeah. So again, it's user stories perspective, and you can actually see the individual tasks that each user story has. You can have bugs also aligned to a user story. So those things, like this is just an example. Okay, so you can actually do a lot of things here. So we will have more detailed session on boards down the line, but I'm just giving you a feel that whatever you can do with boards. Then we have sprints. So you need to define a sprints a week. Like for example, one sprint will be 2 weeks. I'll just give an example. Okay, and then once you define that in your task board, you can actually have uh, user related. Like you can actually select an individual, and depend on that individual, you can see how many tasks got assigned to him. So you may have 5 individuals in your team, and you have assigned 5 different types of tasks to your team. You can actually select which one, like which guy got which task, and you can actually toggle around the iterations also. So uh, here the transparency is more accurate, because you'll have task level of visibility, and you can discuss more. Like it's more about discussing regarding the blockers of a particular task, or any task you have completed. You need to get it reviewed. You can make it as kind of, you can assign that to your superior, that task one is complete, and now I need it to get supervised. So please do that. Otherwise, I cannot move this task. So that kind of thing you can do here. So this is again something which you can use in your status meeting. You can go to your backlog items, and you can see what are the backlogs you have, and you can plan. Like normally we used to do that on Monday and Tuesday. Like we see what are the task backlogs we have, and how much we can take it up in the current iteration, and then we assign them to our teammates. Capacity planning also you can do. Like these are the teammates in your team, and you can discuss like what kind of activity they will do, and how much hour they are going to spend uh, per day for a particular activity. And if they take some off, you can actually add those things also. Like for example, the guy is off on Friday, so you can mention that this guy is only available for 4 days in this iteration. That actually helps you to see your capacity, like how much capacity you have to do how much work. So that kind of help you'll get.
Work planning become more effective with this
Very,
kind of that approach.
very effective. I think when I'll give you a proper demo, you will get to know that how much effective it is. It's very effective in planning and assigning work to your juniors. So next is queries. Now you'll end of the day you'll have a lot of tasks in your board, but then you need to find a way to query it out. So that option is also there. So if you go to the editor, you can actually select what you need. For example, I have selected work item type is equals to task. So show me all the tasks that are there in my project. And if I run it, this is the output I'll generate. You can actually generate charts out of that. So for example, I can generate this chart from my like all the tasks. So out of my 13 tasks, 7 are closed, 3 are new, and 3 are active. And then I can actually push this chart to my dashboard, and then everyone can see that in my dashboard itself. So this is really seamlessly bonded here. So you don't need to go to some other tool and create those reports, and then send alerts, and like integrate with other tools. Everything is there in a one Azure DevOps tool. And Azure Boards is kind of a lifesaver for a lot of managers down the line. Okay, uh, many few managers kind of are very good in this, because they're still in the learning phase. But whoever adapted it quickly, they are getting the benefits down the line. So that is from the board's perspective. Do you have any questions? Anyone?
Yes, Abhi, like we saw in dashboard, we can pin a lot of charts.
Yeah.
So we have seen that if my build fails, it show me in the failed status. So
Yeah.
is there any way if my app, let's say I have a web app, so if my web app has been deployed successfully, but it is failing or generating a lot of exceptions, so can we create a chart of that out of that and share it with
Yes.
our stakeholders or something like that?
Yes, you can do that. You can do that because there is a widget with application inside. So whenever your web app fails, okay, I think it's a more Azure oriented question. So pardon me if we come up with a lot of Azure jargons here, but I think Palvinder can understand it because he's doing the question. So whenever you deploy a web app in Azure, it's nothing but a web application, website, okay. And if it fails, it generates error telemetries, and those telemetries can be captured in your application inside, which is kind of an application performance monitor we use in Azure. So the data is there in the application inside. Now what we can do, we can create a widget. Like there is a widget for application inside. Uh, I think we need to search it. By default, it doesn't come. So if you go to the extension gallery, you'll find this extension with application inside. So you can see application inside.
The second one, I believe, Subba.
Yeah. You need to spend some time into it. So Azure application insights, you can see. So there are a lot of options you'll get. So you need to choose that option, and I did it in Nexus. Like in one of my previous project, I did it. Like I was showing them how many times my web app was failing. So whenever there was a kind of unavailability, or there was a kind of downtime to my web app, I was detecting it in my dashboard widget. So that you can
So
do. So you need,
basically, Subba, this Azure DevOps is a kind of a accumulation of like Confluence, Jira, Jenkins, BreadLogic, Nexus, all those stuff, right?
yeah. If you're not using Azure DevOps, you have to use all those things.
Mm. Okay. Sounds
So
good.
so
Thank you.
so it's a common platform. So it's a common SaaS offering by Microsoft where you don't need to go anywhere. uh, everything can have an extension. If your tool have an API, we can link that API to our Azure DevOps, and you can use it through Azure DevOps. Okay, so it's very powerful, and we are just touching the iceberg's top. So to answer you, Palvinder, we can do it, and if you really want it, I can spend some time with you, and I can show you how to do that. It's possible. It's highly possible.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Sabi.
Okay. So now let's go to the
I have a
yeah.
question,
Yeah.
if you would allow.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So is there a way to link, say, ticketing systems such as Zendesk with Azure?
Zendesk, I'm not aware. Maybe there is an option. ServiceNow, I'm aware of. I think ServiceNow we can. So you're telling like there will be some ticket going to that tool that whatever you have mentioned here, like Zendesk.
Zendesk, yeah.
Yeah.
It's see, for example, say Trello. Trello is another,
Yeah.
Similar system
Yeah.
to Azure.
Yeah.
So there, from Zendesk, whenever you are getting a request via a ticket, you can actually interlink both the accounts and create a Trello card automatically from Zendesk.
Okay.
So is that feature possible for Azure?
So are you asking to create a fellow card from Azure DevOps?
From Zendesk to create a Azure card directly without having to do it manually.
Yeah, look, the ticketing system, Azure DevOps can also be your ticketing system. So normally what happens, we create task and we assign to a particular individual. That itself shows it's a ticketing mechanism where it kind of notify the particular individual that a task has been assigned to you.
Yeah, true. For say child work items or tasks, that happens for the internal team when you are trying to organize it. Say you're dealing with an external entity who would just send you the request via a ticket, then you handle the entire process internally through Azure. So the ask is for an external entity who does not have, say, an Azure account or who you do not want to include and involve in your internal process. He would raise a request via Zendesk. So is there a way to link these two accounts so that you can get an Azure card directly from that ticket, Zendesk ticket? That's the question.
Yeah, look, if you can automate the task that you're mentioning it, for example, if you can call an API to the Zendesk and you can create that fellow card from that ticket, then it is possible through Azure Devops also. Because down the line, what will happen? Like we need to invoke a webhook, and that webhook will do all those things parallelly. So if you can call that in Zendesk tool through an API, you can do it through Azure Devops.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for the questions. Let us come to the Azure Repos now. Yeah. So again, as I told you, it's kind of a private Git. So if you worked on Git, you can actually create this. So far, I have added this sample application in. I will suggest people to mute themselves. I think it's my daughter. Yeah. So it's problem inside. Okay, so it's fine. So Azure repos are similar to Git. So I'm not going to explain you what is Git. We will have a separate session on Azure repos, but treat it as a kind of a repository for your all your code and files, whatever you want to put it in your project. So you can treat this Azure repo as a private Git also. Like whenever you do your personal work and you want to create it, like keep it private to yourself, you can actually use your personal private repo as your Azure DevOps repo. I normally do it because it's kind of seamless to my Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio whatever I'm using. So it really helps me a lot while connecting through them, and then checkout becomes very easy for me. So from that point of view, you can actually store, you can create branches. There is a branch strategy that I'll take care down the line when I'll go through this repo. So what is the ideal branch strategy you should follow whenever you're creating application, and what are the do's and don'ts for creating branches. So all those things will cover, but keep the things in mind that you can actually put all your codes and files in Azure repos. So any questions here? I think it was pretty straightforward. Yeah. So we have around 10 minutes now. So let me quickly show you the pipeline part. So this pipeline is the kind of the meat of Azure DevOps. It's actually the main work we do. Normally we create pipelines. So these pipelines are nothing but it actually creates your application, like it builds your application and it creates the artifacts that needs to be deployed. So for example, if I show you this demo project CI I've created, let me go to this edit option. And you can see I've created one edit one pipeline which has 3 tasks. So one is like it's building an application. So currently I have kind of connected this build to my Azure repo, and I have one project. So I'm targeting my project here. What this task will do, it's kind of build my task, and then it's going to publish to a .zip file the artifacts, and then I'm going to put that .zip file to a Dropbox in my repo itself, so that my release pipeline can pick it up. Okay, you can create YAML version of this, like if an individual is very keen in writing YAML pipelines. For example, whatever I'm doing here is drag and drop, right? Searching a particular, like if you click on the plus, you'll get the list of tasks that you can select. So there's huge lot of tasks you can select out of and you can create your own build definition out of it. So there is build, there is utility, there is test you can add, there is packaging you can do. So all these things you can do here. But if you really don't want to do drag and drop, you want to write your own build definition, and through code, you can actually use YAML. So there is a view YAML also, which actually helps your like it actually tells Microsoft to give you the YAML code, and once they do it, you can use it. Currently, I'm getting this. Okay. So normally, what happens whenever you create a new task, there is a YAML option always there. You can actually take that YAML option and you can use it in your YAML files. So again, whenever in creating YAML pipelines, I will take a separate session. It's a topic of its own. So let's show you the triggers. So what have I done? I have done like whenever you'll do any changes in your repo, like whenever anyone will do any changes to my repo, this build will get triggered. Okay, so that is called continuous integration. So whenever anyone checks into my repo, this pipeline will trigger. It's going to take that change. It's going to build that change with the new artifacts, and then my release can pick up that build artifact and deploy to a particular environment. So if I go and show you the release pipeline, so this is my release pipeline. So here I am getting this build artifacts. I'm taking that build artifacts and putting to my deploy to dev pipeline. Okay. So there I have created three different types of environments: dev, QA, and production. And if I go to each, I can see a web app task here, which actually taking my .NET artifacts and hosting my website to Azure. So for that, I need to do all these things. I'll show you again whenever we will go for the continuous deployment session. And once this dev is done, then you will kind of propagate or promote your code to a QA environment. And once that is done, you can promote that to a production environment. You can have access control also there, like a particular individual will approve that deployment to QA or production, and then only that deployment should happen. So those kind of things also you can configure. So let us do an example here. Let us do a kind of small demo here. So there is a view home index here. So let me change something here. Welcome to Azure Devops service. Let me add something here. So I've added this. I'll commit this change. Committed. So once this is committed, pipeline, there will be a, you can see my demo project CI got triggered. So this is queued. Okay. So let us wait for some time. So it's asking for agent to host. Normally what happens, it got started. So by default, it uses Azure hosted machines to deploy your stuffs, but normally you can actually create your own machines also to do those things. So I will show you whenever we'll have this pipeline session in detail, how to create your own build machines. So .NET build is going on. It will not take huge amount of time because the application is very small. So it's published it, it's putting them in the drop box.
Savi, so it's basically creating a package and storing it in the Dropbox, and from there a release pipeline will pick it up.
Yeah. So that also got got linked. So I have done that linking in my release definition. So whenever this build job will complete, that release job will trigger automatically. So so that is kind of continuous integration and continuous deployment in DevOps. So
all right.
So one question is like, for an example, you make some changes in the code, okay, and you release that, and it moves to the QA environment, and the QA or the UAT environment, and in that environment, it will be going through a kind of a business validation, and once that is signed off, then only the release will be. I mean, then will be that particular change or the fix will be released for the production. So that kind of segmentation can be done, or
Yes.
how is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can do that. So there is the concept called environments, and in each environments you can actually configure them. For example, the security part, you can actually ask for that security. So whenever whenever anyone will deploy anything in this environment, email will go to those individuals for approval, and they can run their own test cases there at that time. Like they can come to the QA and they can tell, okay, now run my custom test cases which I have not exposed to anyone, and then they can run it. If they are satisfied, they can approve the code promotion. So once they do the code promotion, the build will again trigger the production deployment, and then similar permission email can go to your production stakeholders to give the approvals. So those things also you can configure. Okay, so you can see the deployment to dev succeeded, and it actually triggered the QA. So now for me, I have not put any gates yet, gatekeepers yet, but you can actually do that. So we will see those kind of things when we have a detailed session on pipelines. I think we have 2 minutes, right, left.
Okay, Sabya, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I have got the idea, I mean, let's say I have a existing web app which is deployed in other platform other than Azure.
Yeah.
So, is there any way to integrate my development pipeline to this Azure Devops?
Yes.
Or does it work only for the web apps which are deployed on Azure cloud?
No. In Azure Devops, it supports any language, any platform.
Okay.
So you can deploy to Amazon, you can deploy to Google through Azure Devops.
All right. Okay. Perfect.
So any language, like be it Python, be it Node.js, be it Java application, be it .NET, whatever. And whether it's a back-west deployment, whether it's a Windows deployment, whether it's kind of deploying to a Mac OS in AWS, anything can possible. Like any platform and any language you can deploy in through Azure DevOps.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. So, I mean, it will be great that if you can show some kind of demo on that aspect, because I want to, if I want to use it, I will use it for my students basically.
Okay.
So that they can know about the Azure, what are all the capabilities, what they can do, what they can do with open source model, what they can do with their machine learning projects, what they can do with their other web development things, all these things. So I want to show them, let's say, how to integrate everything through Azure development platform, Azure Devops. Not only Azure, but other things. So if you can prepare a demo and if you can show that to me, or if you want to work offline a little bit with me regarding that, that will be great. Basically.
Sure. I think it will be great if we can have a common project where we can display these things. I think that would be great. So we can do that. And I think in peer learning, the approach of peer learning is to get this kind of problems and to resolve them through mutual knowledge.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'm going to stop the recording now. Thanks for joining to this channel. Thank you, guys.